probably be a gap till the next time I go live. Trying out a little bit of new gear here because I can't really get into my office right now, my studio. So this is kind of the bastardized version of the world that I'm going to be operating within, at least temporarily. In any event, I mean, obviously it's been a while since we've talked, and there's a reason for that. This COVID-19 thing has really, really put to the test everybody's hard, fought beliefs. Everything you thought was right has been flipped on its head and proven wrong. You look at the way the country has been able to function just fine, if you will, without any taxes going up, without any taxes coming in. Somehow or another, that money kept coming in, right? While simultaneously, you got millions upon millions upon millions of people. I think it's 47 million people unemployed. And you got people in the streets fighting tooth and nail for justice within the police brutality world of Black Lives Matter, as we watch George Floyd, who was taken out. This is all happening all at one time. Pandemic, a shitty election with two absolutely unworthy human beings. People so bad they should be pushing up daisies, not sitting in the White House. And we're left with no leader per se. Not that we necessarily need a leader, but there's no Bernie movement per se anymore. The movement itself should exist just fine, but unfortunately egos and weakness and just fatigue have bled apart a lot of that. Now you're looking at the architect of the crime bill going against the ultimate fascist who, in a recent ad, actually used the Nazi symbol for prisoner of war. I mean, if it wasn't so horrible, you'd think it was a comedy. You'd think it was a joke, like War of the Roses. It couldn't be real. But now the shit's real. The shit's real. And, I'm looking back at pictures of Joltin' Joe Biden when he was a good-looking young man, ready to taunt and tease Anita Hill, and he's sitting there mugging it up with Clarence Thomas. People telling me you got to vote for Biden because, Biden in the Supreme Court. And I'm looking at him. He's the reason why we've got Clarence Thomas out there right now. I mean, you don't have to look any further than Joe Biden. And you look at the mass incarceration problem we have in America, and you don't have to look any further than Joe Biden. After a while, you get tired of hearing somebody tell you that Joe Biden might be the lesser evil. I mean, Trump is a foul, disgusting, horrible person. I mean, every time he puckers, just the way he buttholes his mouth, and, he's a very good man and all this shit. That's a mannerism. It's horrible. You hate looking at it. But none of that rises to the level of the crime bill. None of that rises to the level of making it impossible to discharge student debt. None of that rises up to the level of voting for the Iraq War. None of that rises to the level of so many other welfare reforms and talking about cuts to Social Security. I mean, this is a man who has celebrated his entire career being around racists and standing up for segregationists. This is not a joke. And the very guy that did all this stuff, we're supposed to see him somehow or another as the answer to the problems? I don't know. I'm struggling with understanding how you're supposed to tie that together. And of all the times in our history, forget the great financial crisis that happened back in 07, 8, 9, and in many ways still going on. Right here, right now, we have an even worse situation. We literally put the entire global economy on life support, and now we're trying to get it back. Now, I'm not a bona fide PhD economist, but it doesn't take one to understand that if you don't deficit spend like crazy, you're going to have not only a prolonged recovery, But you're going to have major inequality hit as more and more private debt is stacked on the communities, especially the communities that have been hit hardest by the layoffs. And it doesn't take much to see that it's been black and brown people that have been hit the hardest. And then you look out in the streets and you realize that the things that they're fighting for, the systemic racism in the policing system, and you look at the income inequality that leads to so much of this stuff and the recidivism and all the, hey man, you've been cut out of the regular economy, so now you're going to go ahead and join a different economy, the under economy, the economy that's outside the norm, to try and provide for your family. Naturally, there's somebody there to step on your throat while you try and do this stuff. And this is a Biden thing. This is Biden. Biden was very, very adamant of making student loans impossible to discharge. I mean, there's so much about Biden that is so revolting and disgusting. I haven't even talked about him sniffing little kids' hair, groping women, kissing them, smelling them on TV. I mean, everything that a progressive stands against this guy is. But then you put this ultimate, it's got to be a sideshow. It can't even be real that it's so bad with Donald Trump. And you watch this happening, this train wreck happening, and you're like, how the hell do I get the escape hatch? How the hell do I get out of this joint? I'm stuck, man. I wish I could bolt. I do. I look at this place and I say, number one, progressives aren't listening to the economic message. They're just not. And there's Stephanie Kelton, who just wrote a book called The Deficit Myth. If you haven't read it, please read it. It's number 13, I believe it is, now on the New York Times bestseller list. And it's a phenomenal book. And it tells you exactly how federal finance works. And it debunks just about every single myth that you hear, everyone from Jen Cougar of TYT all the way across to Fox News and everywhere in between. Debunks all their bullshit. Every bit of it. And it's like the playbook. But you know what? It took 5 years of screaming at Berner supporters to who Stephanie Kelton was, and they wouldn't listen. They just wouldn't listen. They refused to. Refused to. They refused to. They're too cool. Way too cool. Way cool Junior. Refused to listen. But somebody's listening, because for her book to rise up 13th on the New York Times bestseller list, somebody's buying it. And I'm sure they have enough money that they could buy a bunch of copies if they wanted to, but I really do believe that there's a large group of people out there that are paying attention. But I don't know that it's large enough. Look at Joe Biden. Do you think that you can push that man to the left? Here we are in the middle of one of the most massive Black Lives Matter rallies across the nation. And Joe Biden wants to spend more money into the police department. I mean, you can't make it up. The movement to defund the police, which doesn't mean what half the people think it means. The police have been asked to do everything from social work to dealing with the mentally ill to you name it. These guys, many of them are coming back from a war and they have PTSD and they're revved up and ready to go. There's some kid with autism. There's some poor guy trying to get by selling loose cigarettes, or there's some other guy selling CDs out of his car or whatever, and these guys pop a cap at them, right? And Joe wants to fund that, but in reality, when they talk about defunding, the police are talking about funding the services that should have been handled by social workers instead of criminal, as a criminal matter. So, I look at this and I'm just so disgusted, quite frankly, that our choices are a deficit hawk in Joe Biden, who has always railed on fiscal spending. He's always been a really, really bad guy when it comes to reducing the deficit and stuff like that, which is absolutely murderous to the regular people. And then you got Trump over there, who you clearly see as a buffoon. You clearly see as a racist. racist. You clearly see he's not all that well put together. He's a mental midget. And you clearly see that from before he was ever even elected, that the Democratic Party had already started ringing that bell. Just like they rang the bell for Mitt Romney. Anybody think Mitt Romney would be the second coming of Lucifer? No, that's got to be Trump, right? Couldn't be Romney. Romney's looking pretty damn good right now. As if you're in the market for a Republican, I'd take Romney over Biden. That's how bad Biden is, and Romney's no walk in the park. The guy's a Bain Capital fool. And you go back a little further, and John McCain, Cowboy McCain, who was part of the Keating Five, you name it. And this guy is a real wreck. He's dead. I ain't even going to say rest in peace. But he was going to be the worst thing that we've ever had to face. We can't forget about Bob Dole, right? Bob Dole. I'm Bob Dole. Bob Dole. We're always dealing with the worst. Oh my God, the world will fall apart if. But one thing I have learned, Democrats, they only seem to care about politics. They only seem to care about policy. They only seem to care about fighting back when the other guy's in charge. When their own team is in charge, all they do, folks, all they do is drink lattes, get cold brews, and talk about the latest, episode of The View. The Pussy Hats and Angie's Listers, they got no time for meaningful change like a Green New Deal. Pfft. Who are you talking to? Green New Deal? Pfft. I got lattes on my mind. Brunch is coming. So, I think to myself, I hate the Trump hysteria. But the fact that we've got these center-right centrists and these lukewarm pussy hatters and Angie's Listers that I'll at least unite with everybody to go against Trump tells me that, at least we have a mock resistance. If Biden got in there, who would be the one stopping him from pulling the trigger on another crime bill or more welfare reform? You think it would be the Angie's Listers or the Pussy Hatters? No, that's not their MO. They're thimble deep, and they could drown in a thimble. That's how thin and wafer light they are. But they got tons of let me talk to the manager characteristics, don't they? And in reality, you leave the progressives by themselves, and we're a small group that can easily be pushed away like they did to Bernie Sanders. The media apparatus would shut us down in a heartbeat. But if you say something bad about Trump, even you too could be put on CNN or MSNBC. It's that simple. The whole game is rigged. So I ask you this. Is it better to be out of power and united in opposition? Or is it better for the Democrats to be in power? 75% of their base goes back to sleep. And then 25% are left fighting Republicans and Democrats yet again without any kind of significant numbers to bring about change. Climate change is still happening, folks. Didn't go away. People are still dying without health care. Didn't go away. People are still dying from student debt. And believe me, the amount of economic malaise that is about to hit as the new fiscal years kick in and people look back at the loss of 3-4 months of closed economy, and the layoffs haven't even come close to being over, even with it opening up. So I want you to think about this. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm just telling you, you vote for Biden, he's going to bring in a neoliberal vice president. He is not bringing in a progressive. It's not happening. He might bring in top cop Kamala. So now you have another tough on crime person. But he's definitely not bringing in someone of value, someone who's decent, a human being. He's bringing in garbage. Now, on this, I don't know what you want to call it, unity team or transition team or whatever, he has Derek Hamilton and Stephanie Kelton over there helping out from the Bernie campaign. So that's good. But I see no evidence that would suggest this guy gets anything right? I don't. There's not a progressive bone in his body. He's a Republican. He's a Dixiecrat. He's a racist. He's a scumbag. He's probably the worst of the bunch. But he's got the D in front of his name. And he's riding on the coattails of Obama, who was one of the worst presidents for minorities, aside from breaking through the color barrier. What he did was really, Jesse Jackson didn't pull punches. He just flat out said Obama failed us. Cornel West, even more brutal. Obama failed us. I know from my perspective, there was no progressive traits in him. And, I watched that from the outside because I was on my journey over to the left. So, I'm looking and I'm saying to myself, okay, so you tell me, Biden will only put in 4 years. Well, he brings a neoliberal vice president in, and more than likely she'll get elected because that's how this game's played. They're not going to be grooming progressives. They're grooming neoliberals. And neoliberals do what neoliberals do. They privatize, they balkanize, and they minimize the pain. And they act like they're all in it. Imagine Nancy Pelosi during all this showing you her Viking range and her glorious triple doored freezer in her 15,000 square foot kitchen, right? Telling you about how it is, and wearing the kente scarves, and just awful identity politics. That's what you're going to get. This is the most gross, disgusting thing, and that's right up against Trump, who is a straight up fascist right-wing scumbag. Forget whether he's playing a bit part. Forget whether he used to be a Democrat and now all of a sudden he's playing this Republican tough guy game, or whether that's who he's always been, or what. Who cares? The point is that Biden has voted for more wars than Trump's gotten into as a president. Seriously, I want you to think about what has actually happened versus a nasty tweet. I'm not telling you that we should not get rid of Trump. I'm just trying to make sure you realize that neither one of these guys is the answer. Neither one of them. But each one of them brings about certain downstream actions that occur. Biden is not going to pull through progressive candidates. He's not going to pull through progressive senators, progressive Democrats. Biden is going to bring forward neoliberals with him. Those are the people he'll sponsor. Those are the people he'll endorse. Those are the people he'll make sure the DNC gives money to. Once that neoliberal establishment gets back in power, that's what they will do. Don't fool yourself to think otherwise. So you got to be prepared for that. And sometimes it's better to be out of power fighting against evil than being divided down the middle and then being told, oh, by the way, eat your peas, you got to vote blue, because what do you want, Trump? And I'm about over that. And I think you guys probably are too. So anyway, I haven't been live in a long time, like I said. I just needed to get this out there because I'm so tired of being told I got to vote for Biden. Riding with Biden. Fuck you. Right? That's just trash. Trash. I still struggle with the idea of he didn't even win this damn primary. He didn't even have to campaign. Folks, he didn't even campaign. Seriously. He didn't even campaign. He didn't go to Kadam. He didn't go to Iowa. He didn't do any of this stuff. I want you to understand how absolutely corrupt this primary was. what a in your face shit show, pandemic or not. And I just can't find it in me personally to reward the rigging that occurred. And if you can, more power to you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to tell you flat out, though, don't think either one of these people is the answer, because they're not. And let me tell you also, because people have been so distracted with bullshit, some real good, important shit, which is going on right now in the streets, but other bullshit, you've seen no one talking about a federal job guarantee in the midst of one of the largest mass layoffs in our nation's history. No one talking about a job guarantee. Why is that? Is our movement that worthless that they can't talk about the real solutions? No one in our movement is talking about nationalizing payroll. Why is that? Why is our movement so inept at taking the solutions that are there and fighting and pushing them? And if I hear one more piece of garbage try and tell me, oh, it's pointless to talk about policy until we get the Senate back, or who's we? Who the fuck's this we? I'm looking for a non-electoral solution. I'm looking at we the people educating each other. And I'm serious. Folks, if you haven't been talking about a federal job guarantee right now, what the fuck is wrong with you? If you haven't been talking about nationalizing payroll, my God, what kind of mainstream garbage are you watching? What kind of trashy alternative media are you watching if you don't have these kind of solutions at your fingertips? I mean, what are you doing? Waiting for Trump to come up with these ideas for you? God damn it, they're right there for you. Why are progressives not out there in mass talking about this? 47 million unemployed. But please, please do skip the nationalizing payroll, and please do skip the job guarantee. Please do skip any of the meaningful stuff. We can always wait for Republicans to come up with it, right? I'm sure they'll be right on it. Anyway, Saturday, I've got a new podcast that'll be coming out with Macro and Cheese. Irami O.C. Frimpong will be my guest. And we're going to be talking about what justice looks like, what, law and order looks like in a just society, and what a rights-based economy and a rights-based country would look like. And I hope you join us, because it's going to be one hell of a show. With that, I'm Steve Grumbine with Real Progress in Action. Have a great day, everybody. I'm out.